Magic comes from gods and demons who are capricious and unconcerned with your character's fly speck of a life. Those who would use magic are best served to always have a backup plan. This is the opening crawl to the chapter on magic in Dungeon Crawl Classic. This sets the tone for the kind of style of magic that you're entering into in the world of DCC. You're not going to get any highly optimized spells. You're going to get wizards with unpredictable toolkits. So today, because I love DCC and because I really do like its magic system, I will explain to you why I think DCC's magic system is an amazing system that you need to give a try, and if not, at the very least, implement parts of it into your own 5e or D&D like games. But first, let's talk about the origin of DCC's magic system. And I'm sure some of you might want a short, sweet, and simple answer. So, DCC's magic system comes from Jack Vance. It specifically comes from the idea of Vancian magic. Magic power is measured by how many spells a person can memorize. Thus, by remembering more, the spellcaster grows stronger and more competent, i.e. they gain levels over progressive times of traveling, fighting, and gaining knowledge. In the book by Jack Vance, Kugel the Clever, who's comparable to a thief, they try to cast a spell, but fail. And thus, the consequences for casting that spell are more than just simply failing. The consequences are unpredictable, wild, and definitely not good. Thus, the key defining characteristic to magic is the lack of predictability in spellcasting. Magic is volatile, rare, and unknown even to the people who study it. However, how does this look like when you're playing Dungeon Crawl Classics? And the core mechanic of spellcasting is the spell check. The caster, whether wizard or cleric, must roll a 1d20 and add their caster level. They also add their appropriate ability score modifiers. They must beat a score result of 10 plus in order to succeed. A roll of less than this causes failure, and in some cases for the wizard, the caster forgets their spell and or has even more extreme consequences. A roll of 1 is always a fumble and can cause terrible things to happen, which we will go over later. Ultimately, even if you are a high-level wizard or a low-level wizard, the unpredictability of magic is the defining characteristic, and every single spell has ranges of success, meaning you could play theoretically the same wizards, but they could be wildly different in terms of how their spell is designed, how your spell looks, and the effect of the spell. This differs because in post-Vancian D&D games, there is not much unpredictability in 5th edition's spellcasting. Excluding some of the wild magic tables that are available for sorcerers, there is nothing really there in Raw. I think the best way to fully understand how the Vancian system works between DCC and 5e is a comparison of some of the most popular spells that have ever existed. The biggest one, Magic Missile. In 5th edition, Magic Missile goes as having one action for its casting time, a range of 120 feet. The components are visual and somatic, and its duration is instantaneous. You create 3 glowing darts of magical force. Each dart hits a creature of your choice that you can see within range. A dart deals 1d4 plus 1 force damage to its target. The darts all strike simultaneously, and you can direct them to hit one creature or several. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell set of 2nd level or higher, the spell creates one more dart for each slot level above first. Let's compare that to Dungeon Crawl Classics. Magic Missile is also a level 1 spell. Its range is 150 feet or more. Its duration is instantaneous, and its casting time is 1 action or 1 turn, which are different things in DCC. Its save is none. The caster hurls a magical missile that automatically hits an enemy. Afterwards, you see a lot of text. Notice how there are several levels of success, as well as you notice that there are misfire, corruption, and manifestation descriptions as well. Overall, this might seem confusing, but you can tell clearly that for DCC, this spell, and amongst others, all have a lot of flexibility and each wizard can cast up to their choice in these ranges of spells. All it just depends on is the amount of luck they have, literally, as well as how much you're willing to sacrifice. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What matters is that 5e's system is pretty linear in design. It is very much meant to be, it is what it is. You get what you get. With DCC, there's a wide diversity of options when casting even a singular spell like Magic Missile. Now that we've established what a wizard looks like in DCC and what Vanishing Magic is, let's put that into play. We will be using Wainwright, the lawful level 2 wizard, and he's a lucky fellow who, for some reason, loves tomatoes because it's in his equipment. I really don't know why that's in their equipment. It's a pregen. Anyhow, let's say Wainwright and his posse, a warrior, thief, and cleric, are traveling through a forested mountainous area. They are trying to get to a small hamlet. On their way, they encounter a band of guards. Unfortunately, they recently had a fight at a nearby city, and the guardsmen are looking for them in hopes of, well, let's say, arresting them. The group deliberates for a moment, thinking on what to do. Wainwright stands up and says, I could simply just charm the group and we'll be on our way. So, the wizard must make a spell check. That is when you attempt to cast a spell. It is a simple 1d20 plus wizard's level plus their intelligence modifier. In this case, Wainwright would be a 1d20 plus 3. He doesn't see any need to spell burn, which we'll go into later what that is, so he holds in his hands and arcane energy flows, casting Charm Person. First, let me explain the 3 core components to a spell, assuming it's going to succeed. First is Manifestation. In this case, Charm Person manifests as a black beam of energy that circles around one armed person. However, that is different than Mercurial Magic. Mercurial Magic is how the spell manifests in relation to cosmic energies and to the unknown of the arcane. For instance, you roll for Mercurial Magic, so when you're getting the spell, that's when you get your Mercurial Magic. And for this spell, Charm Person, the side effect of the mysterious in this magic is, well, the caster has to shout the spell when they cast. Finally, we get to the spell result, aka what happens when you roll your spell check. And in this case, Wainwright rolled a 9, which is a failure and loss, meaning the wizard cannot cast that spell anymore for the remainder of the day. Thus, the element of surprise is gone. The party is quickly surrounded by dozens of guards, approaching them cautiously. The situation is turned from a favorable one to unfavorable in only one turn. See how in this example, magic and choice coincide? The players could have spell burned before the cast and used luck afterwards to increase their chances of success. However, Charm Person also has some Mercurial Magic that hinders surprise. It is this deliberation between what to do that I think provides a lot of interesting and fun tactics to encounters. Back to the party. The leader of the guards steps forward. She says, Alright, that was kind of funny and cute, Wayne. If you impress me with some of your cute little magic tricks, we won't outright kill you. At the very least, we'll get the bounty and send y'all back to the city. The wizard cannot fail the group again, hopefully. Wainwright, fortunately, has ventriloquism. This allows the caster to project the sound of their voice from another place, such as an adjacent room, an animal or statue, down a hallway, etc. Wainwright is proud and believes that previous spell failure was just a fluke. So, the player rolls. They roll a natural 1. Yes. Natural 1s, regardless, are always a fumble. And the natural 1 doesn't just mean loss and failure. It means corruption or misfire. And for this example, we will use both since the GM is feeling particularly cruel today. So, what is corruption? Corruption is when a wizard rolls a natural 1. They suffer the effect of the spell failure, and depending on the spell, corruption ranges from minor to greater corruption. aka, there are physical, mental, and or emotional effects that happen to the wizard because of that sustained failure. It can be something as simple as maybe losing an eyeball, to something as major as your entire body being changed grotesquely, becoming some horrible abomination. Look at this image right here from DCC. This shows corruption at its finest. It shows a wizard in their prime, youthful and ready for anything, and as they continue to fail spells, learn magics, and face these horrors, they become more and more deformed. Corruption is something that affects all wizards in DCC eventually. The question is, how much are you willing to give to avoid those consequences? Next is misfire. A spell misfire is when your spell goes off, but not as intended, and there are plenty of tables for that as well. In the case of Wainwright, the corruption is terrible. Their voice now permanently sounds like a horse neighing until they get someone to fix it. And the misfire is on, well, just is centered on himself, making an enormous boom effect. And for the sake of it, let's just say it's a vine boom effect. Yeah, Wainwright's situation, it just went from downright crappy to literally the worst it could be. The guards laugh at the group. Their wizard is now no longer coherent, and they are definitely going to be captured. The leader is nothing more than just annoyed, if not feeling a bit of pity for the group. Thus, seeing they are outnumbered and they don't want to die, the group starts to run away. And just as the team finds a clearing, they're standing over a cliff face. There is nowhere to go. The guards are approaching him. The others are not equipped for a battle of this many. Thus, the rogue is out of luck, the cleric has pissed off the deity, and the warrior is in no fighting condition. That leaves Wainwright with one more spell that can turn the tide. Featherfall. Not wanting to risk anything, our pompous wizard is going to put everything they got into this spell. They will spellburn. And spellburn is where you use your physical stats of strength, stamina, and agility to buff your spell check. So, the wizard uses 10 of their strength to bump up their spell by 10 points. In this case, the wizard rolls a natural 7, including all their modifiers. Adding that, they add their 10 strength. This means the wizard can also add luck after they cast. So in this case, they want to go further beyond. So, Wainwright adds 6 luck, giving the spell check a 30 to 31. As stated, this range allows the wizard to cast the spell with amazing effects. Caster and up to 6 additional creatures can glide on the winds. They soar on the breeze, drifting back to Earth at a vertical rate of 10 feet per round, arriving on the ground when reaching the maximum distance they can glide. Thus, for a moment, a draft picks up as the group leaps off the cliff, and just as all hope is lost, the group is gliding off to distance, safe. For now. In this circumstance, we go through all the steps to spell casting. The failures, the misfires, the corruption, the critical successes, the ranges of successes, and most certainly, the most important part, how Vancian magic can really shift play in favor for the players or in favor for, say, the enemies. This versatility is what I think makes DCC's magic system peak. And that's only scratching the surface of what magic looks like in DCC. That's specific to the wizard. You don't even need to keep spellburning and all of those aspects to the wizard. Spellburning could be applied to any of the spellcasters in DCC. Though, I would recommend thinking on that before you do that, because that is a defining characteristic of the wizard class. The cleric, the elf, and all the expansion classes have unique aspects to casting. There's a lot of variety to this game, and as you play more and more, you realize that magic in this game is fun because of the range of things you can do with it. From the massively cool failures to the dramatic and bombastic successes happen, whether it's a fireball, magic missile, or even your own homebrew spells you probably found in a DCC crawl. DCC's magic system is peak, and I think if you're interested in trying out an awesome system of bizarre and strange magic with possibilities that you don't even know were going to happen at the table, then I highly recommend you join the DCC crew. And if you're looking for more DCC knowledge, I have a DCC primer video over here. Or if you want to support my channel, feel free to check out my Patreon and Ko-fi down below. And of course, a special shout out to my Patreon supporters, especially Harrison Parker, for your continued contribution. And as always, I'm your average everyday queer host, Blurry Disposition. Hope you all an awesome day. Ciao.